Okay, it is finally time to start all of this stuff on the fenders. And first thing I want to do is get all my parts together. And I know I'm already missing one of the lenses that go here. So you've got these pieces that go on top of the fender, and there's a clear lens that goes in there like that. So I've got to find something new for that. Now I have some scrap acrylic. It probably shouldn't be too hard to make something to put in there that would look normal. So I've got those pieces ready. I've got the front bar here ready here. There's a single light that goes in the middle and its lens. We've got two lights that go on the side here. So I've got those pieces right here and their lenses. And I also have the main headlight pieces up front here. There's the main dome, there's the ring, and the hardware that mounts it onto the bar, and the little, this piece is plastic, so far all these are metal. This plastic, I guess that's the bulb reflector, and then the lens, and all that has to go together. Of course, there's a light bulb that goes in there. I was thinking about putting an LED in those, just because LEDs last longer. But given what this car is and the age of it, I think putting an LED in there would be, I don't know, it just seems wrong. I'll just tell him that if the bulb ever burns out to bring it back and I'll replace it with an LED. But for now I'll go with the bulbs, but I need to test them first. So I got to find a battery to test those. Let's see, get those back out of the way. And we also have these pieces down here. I'm assuming they're horns. I don't know for sure. And we've got a plastic piece that goes on there, and then those get screwed onto the back with a threaded part that locks that in place. So I'm trying to decide the order of operation that I want to go here. Oh, and also I almost forgot, there's these pieces right here that screw into the fender down at the bottom, and they latch the hood panels, and I definitely want to get those on first. And these side lights here, I could put those on at any time. I'm not too concerned about those. I think I'll put those on before I put the fenders on the car, and I will probably put all of this on before the fenders go on the car, and the license plate holder here more than likely. So I just have to come up with a plan with a order of operations. But I think what I want to do first, I didn't even get these parts out yet. I think I want to assemble these pieces right here. That's the assembly. So I need to find all of those pieces right here. So let me get those together, and I need to do those 4 times, it looks like. So yeah, 4 of those. So let me get those pieces together. I did get the fenders all polished up. They actually came out pretty nice. I didn't have any issues with the clear. They polished up pretty nicely. Didn't go through the clear at all, so I'm fairly happy with the fenders. I still need to clear coat the other door and get the other door on. I'm waiting for a nice day to spray the clear for that, which I might be running out of nice days for the rest of the year. But let me get these pieces and we'll get those together, and I'll show you what those look like here in a second. Okay, so I found the other lens piece that I thought was missing, so I got both of those. One was just thrown into a different bag, so I got both of those. So we're going to start assembling the little latches that hold the hood panels down. So I've got all the parts here, got 4 of all the parts. Now this part, these are all together. You just cut them off. So you have one looking like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those threaded posts that then goes through one of these latches. I guess it's called a latch. And then a metal tube goes over top of that. And then that threads onto that. And I will probably use Loctite, but just for now, to get an idea of what it looks like, we have that. Looks just like that. Now, in the picture in the book, it shows that piece very slightly curved. Um, so if that part goes into the little hole of the panel, then this part could get very slightly curved. It looks like that's what they're doing. So I'm just going to put a very slight bend in it. I'm not going to get too carried away. Let's see here. What do I want to use? Let's try these. That's not too bad. I think I like that. I can live with that. All right, so we've got this, and we want that tight, but not too tight. You've got to be able to turn this, but we don't want it loose that it's flopping around. So that assembly right there then goes into, where's my, here we go, just so my fingers don't get in the way of what I'm showing. That goes in here, and then there's a screw. Where'd my screw go? And then the screw goes in there to hold all of that together. And then the threaded eyelet, yeah. I don't want to screw all that together just yet. You get the idea. Because this piece, that piece screws into the, screws into the fenders. And I think it'd be easier to screw that into the fenders and then put that on and put the screw into the side. I think that would be easiest. So I don't want to screw those together yet. But I'm going to go ahead and assemble the rest of these. And what I'll do is once it's screwed together, I'm going to put just a little bit of the capillary Loctite on the threads on the backside there. And so let me get all those done, and then we can start working on the other things. Okay, so those are all prepped and ready to go. The next thing I think I want to do is, just some real simple assembly. We can start with these side lights right here. So we have this. Now the post that goes through to hold the windshield frame on, that's sticking out. That's already on the car. That screws in here. But there's this piece. This piece will screw in to the back like that. So that just screws in. And the lens should just pop in like so. You know what? Is there an up and down here? It might be nice. Let's see if there's a... Probably, I'll just make them the same. I don't know which way it's supposed to be, up or down, but there is a pattern on that. I'll just make them the same. So there's the hole, so that goes inboard towards the car. So I'm going to put it that way. And that doesn't snap in place. So I'm going to use a little bit of glue. But anyways, I can do that off camera. But anyway, so you make two of these like that, and those just thread onto the side posts on the car. So it's two of those like that. And again, I'll glue those off camera. Next thing we can do, we have another one of those. This one. And same type of thing. That'll probably just need to get glued in there. But this attaches, make sure I get this right way around. This attaches right there with a screw. And I might do that after it's already on the car. We'll wait till that's on the car. We have the little horns. And these pieces and these pieces. Now these I think will be out of the way. No, that light there should be fine. But these screw on, got the black piece here, and then like that, and then this piece on the back, just like, if I could get my fingers to work. Come on. Are those threads good? No, those threads aren't feeling that good. I'm going to have to get a little magnifying glass out and check those threads out. See what's going on with those threads. But hopefully that's an easy fix. So I'll do that later. There's always something. So what can I do? What can I do? I can glue those lenses in, and I can screw that one on. I think that'd be out of the way enough to screw that one on. Now, with glue, they do make a CA that is not supposed to fog up a lens. I don't have any of that. This is going to be far enough away from the lens that it should be fine. And I'm just going to put a little bit in there. Just a little bit. Normally when I'm doing clear parts, I use that the UV curable glue, because that stuff is just incredible for how strong it is. See if I can go let that squirt in there. All right, and it didn't fog it. I think that looks all right. And we need a screw. They call for a 409. Let me grab a screw. And of course, I don't have any. What's up with that? I might have to scrounge around in my junk drawer for that. So there's that. I can't really do too much more until I find a screw, test the light bulbs, and then screw those things into the fender. Okay, so here's where I'm at now. Oh, I noticed on the instructions, I probably pointed right to it a few minutes ago and didn't even really pay attention to it. But the little latches, get one of these up here. The little latches there, they show you how to bend it right there. So I bent them all like that. Remember I was saying it should have a slight curve in it. Yeah, that's a little bit more than a slight curve. So I got those all bent. Now I went ahead and I have the eyelets installed in here. See if we can get a good view of it. And so here's one there and one there. Just a little eyelet screwed in. And I've got two latches put in on that side. And the screws that go through here, I've got them just tight enough so I can move it, but they're not loose enough to where it's going to flop around, because I don't want it to flop over and rest on the paint. And one there as well. So what happens here is once you close the hood, this rotates over and locks into the hood that way, just like that. So I got to put the other two in here to match those, and I went ahead and got this front assembly together a little bit. I've got the two horns mounted. The threads, it's like the first couple of threads were dinged up, so I just filed them down. So I got those threaded in. I've got that middle light put on. Yeah, I was missing the right screw for that, so in my scrounge drawer I found a screw that worked. And I've got these put on, and the nut inside here is resting on a compounded curved surface, so it's not sitting flat, but it's tight that it can't move. But yet if I needed to twist it a little bit, I still could. What I'm going to do is once it's all on the car and I've got them lined up the way I think they should be, put a little bit of CA right around that nut so it doesn't come loose, and then I'll put the lens on. Speaking of the lenses, the clear lens just snaps onto the plastic piece here, and the light bulb will fit in here. And these go on like that, and then those just snap on here, and they just plug in and snap on. There is an up to down to that. There's a pattern here in the middle, so that goes like that. Okay, speaking of the light bulbs, they do work. I found a battery right here, and I just kind of temporarily wired the two bulbs together. They do get wired in parallel. Now the instructions show you that, how to wire them. If you wire them in series, they'll glow half as bright. So you want to make sure that you are wiring them in parallel. Let me just show you how these look when they're lit. So just to kind of test that here, go a little wire there, and like so, and how do you like that? Yeah. What am I doing wrong here? They were just working. There they go. So There they go. Just trying to hold them on here. I don't really have a good connection. But once the wires get soldered on, I'll have good connections, and those are actually pretty bright. So I think those will look good. I'll do those instead of LEDs. All right, what else? I think that's it. So, oh yeah, one other thing. I also glued the little lens into this piece. I just put a drop of CA in the back. Technically, probably don't need glue because that lip rolls over the front and that kind of holds it in, but I didn't want it to rattle around and I didn't want to take any chance of it falling out. I've already got one on over right here. So all we've got to do, same thing as those metal pieces on the back of the car. We just bend these down, get some little square pliers here, and we just bend those tabs down and then push them into the holes and then spread them out. So we'll go ahead and get this one put on. Man, that's really quiet when I stop talking. All right. And being careful to hit the hole so we don't scratch the paint. This just goes in. Man, I can't see. I think I need to squeeze those in just a little bit more. Get in there. There we go. And come on. There we go. And that just presses in like that. Flip that over. And while squeezing that in, we just can bend these tabs out. Just like that. And just like that. All right, so those two are on. Those two, I'll put those on. It's just putting a screw in. Put it on, put a screw in. And this will get screwed in just right here. And I'll go ahead and do that now as well. And again, it's just putting screws in. I'll do that off camera. But once those pieces are on, then we're ready to put this onto the car. So let me get this all ready and we'll put it to the car and see what that looks like. Oh, real quick, one more thing before I forget. It would probably be a good idea before you paint yours to go ahead and screw the eyelets in. Maybe not all the way, just screw them in about halfway and take them out just to kind of get the hole started, because the threaded portion is quite a bit bigger than the hole. And you really kind of have to push and turn. And you can't really do it with your fingers, so I was doing it with these pliers here, pushing and turning it to get it in. And I was really nervous, I guess is a good word, about slipping and scratching the paint, because it just would have taken one wrong, if that thing would have flipped or fell over or slipped or something and then scratched the paint, that would have been a nightmare to have to repaint this thing. So probably would have been a good idea to get the holes kind of started a little bit before you paint it. And I would have been able to relax a little bit more when I was putting those in. So anyways, let me get this ready and then we'll fit it to the car. Okay, here's where we are so far. Now, it is just sitting in place. It's not screwed in yet. I've got the screws kind of laid out. These right here, those are the ones that go up from the bottom here, and they go through the frame, through the body, and then into the post under the fender here. And the screws given are too short. Those, once they go through those two parts, there's like maybe one thread sticking out of the top. So I've got to go through my scrounge and find some, maybe 1/8 of an inch longer than that. Those screws and washers there are the ones that go up through, not those. Where the heck are those? Oh, these. No. Yeah, the ones that go up through the bottom here. They go up through the frame and into the fender. Oh, those right there. Looking right at them. Those, again, they go through the frame and into the fender. those should be fine. They look like they'll line up okay. And then the ones that go in the back here, the bolt and the nut that go through the back edge of the fender, then into the body, I've got those set up and waiting right here. I also routed the wires. Are we going to be able to see that? Probably not. Get some light. Get my free Harbor Freight light in here, maybe. I routed the wires. We're not going to be able to see that. But anyways, before I put the fenders in place, I routed the wires under the radiator and then up over the A-arm. And there are just two of them sticking out there, and same on the other side. So those two, again right here, these ends will get spliced onto two other wires coming into the light here. The other two will go for that light right here. We'll get the wires all, or we'll get the lights all wired up a little bit later. So again, right now, those fenders are just sitting in place. I'm going to put all the screws in off camera, just because I'm assuming it's going to be a struggle. And I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to have to position myself in the car and how I'm going to have to wrestle it around. I might even need to get three hands. I don't know. Because the screw holes do not line up very well. They can be forced into place, but yeah, so I'll just come back once I get all the screws in, and we'll start working on the wires and the lights. All right, so I've got this thing flipped over on its back. It's on some foam padding. And I got the screws in here, okay. And I got the ones back here. Okay, is that going to focus? There you go. Doesn't look good, but they're in. It just goes into a slot instead of a hole. What I'll do is I'll put some CA here when I'm all done, just so it doesn't come out. But that doesn't line up. So what I did, I drilled a hole into the piece here, put a different screw through here and into here, and then I snuck another screw here into the fender. So two screws instead of one. So I'll just do the same thing over there. I'll CA those in place, and then I'll flip this thing back over again. Oh, and I'll put the oil pan cover back on. And I'll probably run some wires for the lighting while it's upside down as well. So let me get that done, and I'll flip it back over. Okay, I realize it looks just like it did before I put the screws in, but it is now screwed in, secured. The fenders are pretty much done, which was a pain in the butt. But I really didn't want to have to flip it over. I was hoping to just kind of work the screws in it from the bottom, but that just wasn't working out. So I was really anxious to get this thing back up on its wheels. Now, while it was on its backside, I routed the wires back to the battery holder. Battery holder is right back in here, so you can see the two wires sticking out of the battery holder now. I got plenty of slack to wire that up. The instructions don't tell you how to route those, so they're just obviously under the car. And I just kind of put them between the interior tub plastic piece and the frame. And I just use a couple of spots of CA to hold them in place so they don't get all flopping. And one of those goes from there under the floor back up into the ignition switch. The other one continues all the way out and is hanging out the bottom here, and will get routed up to here. And then the other wire from the key switch is coming through the firewall and is coming out to here. And then I have other wires going from side to side for the other lamp. I really wanted this video to have the lights working at the end of this one, but I have a feeling this one's getting a bit long. So the next video, I will just focus on the wires and the lighting and get the lighting done. Also, after I flipped it back over, as you can see, I installed these on each side. Now, they just screw on, and fortunately, I had enough common sense to not break those posts.
because once I screwed those on and they got tight, unfortunately they weren't pointing straight forward. One was pointing up, the other was pointing back. And so what I did is I unscrewed it about halfway, put some Loctite on the threads, turned it back in until I could have it facing forward. The Loctite will hold it in place. If you try to keep tightening to get it all the way around until it's forward, I can almost guarantee you'll break that post. And that would just be a nightmare, because at this stage it would be fairly difficult to replace that post. I mean, you'd have to wait for one to come up on eBay, unless you turn one down on the lathe. I guess that would work. But there's a nut on the back side up inside of here that would just be a pain to get to right now because the dash is in the way. So just be very careful not to break those posts when you screw those on. And also, I got one windshield wiper on. Let me put my camera down and I'll talk about the other windshield wiper. Okay, for the windshield wipers, we have the black plastic piece like that. That has two little studs or posts on the edge. I don't know if that's going to come up on the camera or not. But two little nubbies sticking out inside. And then you have the arm that looks like this. And of course, those get bent around into a U shape, and the little nubbies go into those holes, and that's what holds the wiper blade in place. Now, that part is fairly straightforward. The part I had an issue with was actually screwing it down here. They call for a, is it a 415? I think it's a 415 screw. The screws, the shank of the screw, or the unthreaded portion, is longer than the thickness of the metal part of the blade. So what happens is, if that'll focus, what happens is when you screw that down, and those threads got stripped out, so that screw is trash. But when you screw that down, the wiper blade is all flopping around and loose because the screw is shanked out. So what I did was I took a nut and not a nut that fit the threads, a nut that would slip over the threads, and that acted as a spacer. So then when I screw it down into here, it allows you to tighten it up onto the blade. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So you need some kind of a spacer in here, basically. I just use a slightly oversized nut as a spacer. I first tried a couple of washers, and I just stacked a couple of washers on here to act as spacers. The problem is that the diameter of the washer is a little bit bigger around than the part of the arm, and it just didn't look right, didn't look good. So so that's when I used a nut, because the nut was smaller than the diameter of that. So it works nice as a spacer and stands it off a little bit, actually kind of simulates a post coming through for the mechanism of the wiper blade. So that just turned out a lot better. So just got to do one more here. And again, to bend those, it's not difficult. But I just use some little square nose pliers like that and just put it on here, bend it over. Don't go all the way yet because you need them spread out a little bit. So then you put the wiper blade post in, then you squeeze them down over the nubbies, and then you're done. And then screw it on here, and then you're done. So I'm going to end this one here just because I think I've spent, I don't know, I'm imagining this video is getting pretty long by now. So I'm going to end this one here. Next video, we will do the lighting and the battery holder. And we'll probably go ahead and do some smaller stuff like put the steering wheel on and a few other little minor things like that. And then after that, we basically just have the hood. The other door, yeah, I can't forget about the other door. I still have to polish that up. I'm just letting the clear cure a few more days now. So the hood, the door, the wheels, a few little panels like that go here and here, a few more square ones in the back there. And this thing's pretty much done. I'm getting excited to get this thing into my friend's house. So anyways, like I said, I'm gonna stop talking, end it here. And as always, thanks for watching.